the Titans made a coaching change. Albert, you rattled Titans Nation, by the way. I was on a Titans pod yesterday, and I didn't know that you stepped on a little bit of a hornet's nest here in saying that there was your take was that the root cause of all these issues is much deeper, and that firing Brian Callahan isn't going to fix anything.
Well, it could, but like it's only going to fix something if they give somebody the time and runway to do the job, you know. And I think, this is another one where ownership has become the problem. Where and if you can't see it, you're not looking, because this is 4 changes, and substantial changes that are all happening separately. In other words,
sure,
if you were firing head coach and GM, if it happened twice in 3, then that's a lot, but not the most unusual thing. What's unusual about this one is, and we can go through the timeline really quick, right? December 22, they fire John Robinson. Then January of 24, they fire Mike Vrabel, and they promote at that point. They'd hired Rand Carthon to replace Robinson. They promote Chad Brinker, the assistant GM, over Rand Carthon. Then a year after that, they fire Rand Carthon, and now they fire Brian Callahan. So it's just a lot of change over the course of, I think it's 34 months if you count it up. And I think what most people who've been around Amy Adams Strunk would tell you is she does not like being embarrassed. Now, that's the way a lot of billionaires are.
Sure.
Right? Like, they don't like being embarrassed. But it's another case, I think, in this day and age of it is hard to avoid criticism if you're an NFL team because of the spotlight that's on every one of them and how every day, the state of your organization is litigated. Right. And you need to have strength to fight through those things. And they haven't shown that strength. So I'm not saying, again, did all these things have to happen? Maybe. But let's just look at what happened here over the course of time, right? So they fired John Robinson. It's no coincidence that was 2 days after AJ Brown went off on them, right?
Right.
So they fired John Robinson. So Amy Adams Strunk has her pound of flesh to bring back to the fan base. Hey, we got you, right? So then they hire Rand Carthon to replace him a month later. They give Mike Vrabel a ton of personnel power at that point and say okay, this is Mike's show now. They go with that for a year. After a year, they feel like Mike has taken the building and turned it into this is my people, my way, my people. She doesn't like coming into work every day now. So a year after you've leaned into Mike Vrabel, you don't like the way that Mike Vrabel is making the building feel. You don't like walking into the building on a day-to-day basis. You feel like your business people, maybe some of the other people involved, aren't as happy. And so now you pull the plug on Mike Vrabel and say, we need a total organizational overhaul.
Right.
So then you promote Chad Brinker over Rand Carthon, right, to lead that overhaul. So then you have the worst team so then you hire Brian Callahan. You have the worst team in the league last year. Well, now somebody has to pay for that, so you fire Rand Carthon.
Right.
And now it's after all of the noise, and I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of family members were in the building in Vegas over the weekend, right? This is when you pull the plug on Brian Callahan. Again, I'm not saying in a vacuum it was wrong to fire John Robinson. It was wrong to fire Mike Vrabel. It was wrong to fire Brian Callahan. It was wrong to fire Rand Carthon. But this is how organizations wind up being rudderless.
I can say I think it was wrong to fire John Robinson and Mike Vrabel. I mean, imagine where they would be.
Well, I mean, you look at it
on to both of them, you know?
I mean, well, here's the thing. So I look at I went back and looked at this earlier in the week. Okay, let's just look at the body of work for John Robinson and Mike Vrabel really quick.
I know.
Okay?
It's crazy.
All right. They won 2 games in 2014. They won 3 games in 2015. That was what John Robinson was walking into. John Robinson also inherited Marcus Mariota as a second overall pick. So he had no choice in who his quarterback was going to be. Right. John Robinson had winning teams his first 6 years in a row in charge there, despite the fact that Mariota didn't work out, that he had to find another answer at quarterback without having a high pick to use on it. Right. So he took a team that had won 5 games in the last 2 years combined that had been 5-27 over the 2 years previous, and immediately started reeling off winning seasons. He hired Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel comes in the third year of that. Mike Vrabel, his first year wins 9 games. They just missed the playoffs. His second year, they go to the AFC title game. And then his third and fourth years, they win the division, right? This is with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. And then that core that they had, a Taylor Lewan and Kevin Byard and Jeffrey Sim, like a lot of that core starts to age out. And as that core ages out, right? Okay, like now, you hit the skids a little bit. But even then, they won 7 games in 6 games in Mike Vrabel's last 2 years.
Yeah.
So it still wasn't a train wreck. Was it as good? No. But had those guys done enough to merit the chance to rebuild it?
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can say that there was some friction between Robinson and Vrabel, and I'm not going to argue with you on that, but isn't that the owner's job to manage that?
Well, it's the owner's job to manage it, and friction. I mean, friction can become passive aggressive and it can become cancerous or whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, like, friction's good. I mean, you want to have a healthy discussion about players. I mean, look at
which is like part of the problem is like, she's not there day to day. So she's coming in once or twice a month into the office, and
sounds like me.
I don't. And I'm walking into the office. I live in Texas. I'm going into the office in Tennessee. Oh, I don't like the feel in the building. I don't like the way. Well, like, do you have the full context of that? No, you don't, because you're not there every day. And if you're talking to people on the business side, or there's somebody that maybe doesn't like Mike Vrabel, if your point of context is like you're talking to 2 or 3 people on a consistent basis, and that person happens to not like the very competent people that you've put in charge, it's almost like I don't know. I mean, like, I look, like, I've heard she's moving to Tennessee soon, and maybe some of this changes, but I do think like this requires a look in the mirror. This requires her taking a hard look at what she's done here. And I think empowering Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi now and saying, it's your show. You got 3 years. I'm not touching it. You know what I mean? Because clearly, like, this, we criticized Woody Johnson last year, and rightfully so, for reacting to what's happening on Twitter. I think the same sort of thing's happening there.
I think that,
so to speak, maybe not specifically Twitter, but like the same sort of thing, like where it's like, I'm embarrassed by the state of my franchise. I've been humiliated in front of my family members. I need to do something. And part of being an owner is being able to withstand like people making fun of you on social media. And again, like, I'm not saying Callie would have dug them out of it, but I can tell you this, like, people in that building, like, had basically come like a couple of weeks ago, it was, is this coming to an end at the end of the year? Probably, but it doesn't do us any good to go to an interim coach here.
Right.
We're probably going to lose Bill Callahan if we lose Brian Callahan. So we lose a great offensive line coach in an area that we're trying to rebuild. I think they'd sort of made the decision, like, it makes more sense to ride it out anyway. So, like, it's not toxic. The players like Callahan. Maybe they're not responding to him the same way, but they like him. I just don't know what the benefit of doing this is. And maybe we'll find on Sunday that they go out and they beat. And I don't think that part of it can be ignored either, right? Like, who they're playing on Sunday.
Do you want the interim bump for Mike Vrabel coming to town, right?
Right. Well, I mean, like, essentially, it's like, it's harder to say, like, well, look at the state of your franchise. What a mess. And you hired all the wrong people.
When you have an interim head coach.
When you've an interim head coach, when you've already sort of taken steps to rectify your previous mistake. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, I like, again, like, this is going to come off as a defense of all those guys who got fired, but like, I don't know if she knows what she's looking for.
Here's what I think is, there's a couple interesting things from this, and then I want to spin it forward and kind of get your short list, because I made one. I tried to make a short list and it ended up being a long list. But when you have 11 weeks to hire a coach, it should be a long list. It should be an expansive list of coaches that you're looking for. The one quick thing I have, and I'm working on a big special team story, and this kind of came up, was the fact that Bones Fossil, who was an interim head coach for the Rams before when Jeff Fisher was let go. Yeah. And special teams was always the go-to for elevating an interim because it was perceived that almost like, not that you have less to do, right?
But it's the least disruptive coordinator.
Right.
Yeah.
But now we are in this like special teams upheaval, right? And I would argue that special teams coordinators have one of the hardest jobs now in the NFL. And so you can't just, elevate the special teams coordinator anymore. Now, Mike McCoy had head coaching experience. It made a lot of sense. He was on the roster too. But I just thought that was interesting. And I do wonder if we see that happen throughout the year, if teams will continue doing that, because again, like special teams coordinators are underwater right now, man. Like this is, this is like a historic season for kick blocks, returns, like kickoffs. I mean, they need all the time that they could get.
Yep. And like the normalization of like the 60-yard field goal, which is bananas. Like it seems like as much as we were going that direction to begin with, that's just accelerated now. Like I can't remember ever seeing like a 55-yarder be so routine. You know what I mean?
We're attempting them more regularly than at any time in league history. And stay tuned. Right? Okay. Yeah, you should subscribe to the magazine because we might have something about that coming down the pike.
Yeah.
My short list, and so I texted a bunch of people.
I was really quick, like on McCoy. I do think one thing that's interesting is what this will mean for Cam Ward. I'll just say this. Like, I think his experience with different types of quarterbacks, going all the way back to Jake Delhomme, Carolina, Peyton Manning, Tim Tebow. He's like worked with a wide variety, Phillip Rivers, wide variety of quarterbacks. I think Mike is going to let Cam be himself. Like, I think that there's going to be an element of just, if you don't see it fast enough, just go make a play. Right. And I think that we're going to see an exciting version of Cam Ward, at least on Sunday, and we'll see what it looks like going forward.